If you ever had the desire to run for president of the United States, you have to be politically savvy, have the endurance of an ox, and a strong desire to reach a lofty goal. Oh, and one more thing, you need a lot of money to get into the race to even get a remote chance for a 4-year term in the White House. How much do you need? Well, that's the topic of this video. While you deal with all those dollar signs dancing around your head, make sure to like this video, subscribe to The Richest, and join our notification squad. Now, how much it costs to be president. First, it's quite a big deal to become president. You'll likely have schools and bridges named after you when you're done, reside in the cushy confines of the White House, get unlimited access to Air Force One, and have extensive security detail at your disposal. You'll also earn an annual take-home pay of around $400,000. With that salary, you won't even get near the list of CEOs in the Fortune 500 list. But if you want to make a difference in the country and the world at large, being a US president is a pretty good spot to be in. And to get into the electoral race, all you need just to appear on the ballot is $5,000 to be registered with the Federal Election Commission. But to win, that's another thing entirely. You can go at it alone if you want, which is what Ralph Nader did essentially in year 2000, although technically he was running for the Green Party. Running on a budget of $4.6 million, he wound up with only 0.3% of the national vote. Nope. What you need is to run to be nominated and selected by either of the two major parties in the US, the Democrats and the Republicans. But just to win a party nomination, which puts you in the driver's seat to run for president, is an extensive proposition. You'll need $10 million to cover startup costs such as a campaign office, a dedicated staff, a travel and hotel budget, and all that electronic equipment for polling and communications. All that will come in handy when you get into the primaries, and to even getting a hope for the party nomination, you're locked in for at least $50 million. So, you get the nomination at the party convention, and you now have that Oval Office in your sights. Now what? Well, in a phrase, more cash, and a lot of it. Because from this point forward, you'll be needing more office space, more office staff, and a much larger travel itinerary. How else are you going to ensure that you shake the hand of every person you think will vote for you or cheer you on at all those rallies? And let's add in media interviews, presidential debates, drop-ins at schools and offices, and all those TV, radio, and online ads your crew has to put together. So how do all of those costs add up? The best example is to look back at the financial reports from Barack Obama's second successful run at the White House, which still ranks as the most expensive successful presidential campaign in US history. First, Obama had administrative costs to cover, like office rent and utilities expenses, data collecting, accounting services, and legal fees. The total to run those offices? Ballpark is around $109 million. And since he has to pay staff, a lot of them involved in polling and other research, keeping them fed wasn't cheap either. Total cost of those expenses? $98.3 million. Since it takes money to make money, Obama had to pay fundraisers and their costs for fattening the war chest. Total fundraising costs? Close to $179.2 million. The most expensive series of expenditures was in media, from TV, radio, and magazine ads to everything Obama needed to elevate his profile. Total cost of getting his face out there? Say cheese at $763.5 million. Obama's campaign accountants also lumped two areas of expenditures together. One was dedicated to strategy research and polling. The other consisted of transfer payments to the Democratic Party, as well as fellow party colleagues running for other offices during the 2012 election. The total figure derived from the two activities amounted to $105.6 million. Also coming out of war chest coffers were campaign expenses such as costs of holding campaign events, printing, and mailing. Then there were political contributions to fellow Democrats and committees in their own electoral races. The fuzzy figure we came up with was roughly $51.7 million. According to reports made public by the Federal Election Commission in 2013, it cost Obama more than $1.3 billion to run his second presidential campaign. And factoring in inflation, that's more than 4 times the expenditures going back to 1960 when John Kennedy and Richard Nixon battled each other for presidency. Each candidate spent slightly more than $300 million in their campaigns. But sometimes, having the bigger vote in a presidential campaign doesn't guarantee a win. Nixon, for example, spent more than Kennedy in his losing cause. Yet the bigger surprise was in 2016, when Hillary Clinton, heavily favored to become America's first female president, was upstaged by billionaire outsider Donald Trump in what was one of the biggest upsets in U.S. history. Clinton spent roughly $969 million in her bid for America's most powerful office, almost twice that of Trump, who had his efforts bankrolled with about $531 million. The big difference was in advertising, where Clinton poured money in heavily. Trump, on the other hand, did very little advertising, preferring social media as the biggest carrier of his message. And he also used his own private jet to travel, which didn't figure into campaign expenditures. Even though cash is a huge factor in winning a federal election, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that money isn't everything. Now that you know what it takes to bankroll a war chest big enough to grab the most powerful office in the land, has any of this information enticed you to run for president? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.